My name is David Fernandez. I'm Legislative Specialist for the Arizona Game and Fish Department. Welcome to our webcast, and thank you for joining us. My name is David Fernandez. I'm Legislative Specialist for the Arizona Game and Fish Department, and I'll be providing you with a brief overview of our current effort to identify a dedicated source of funding for outreach and education efforts. This webcast marks the opening of our first public comment period. We'll be accepting ideas through a dedicated email address, ideas@azgfd.gov, that you'll see referred to in several upcoming slides, and this presentation will be available on our website at the conclusion. So, first question, why are we doing this? The department is undertaking this effort at Commission direction. The Commission understands that it's increasingly important for the public to understand and support the department's mission to conserve and protect wildlife in Arizona. Wildlife management is not done in a vacuum. The public has a great deal of influence on operations and priorities. An informed public can understand how the department operates, why it does the things that it does, and even offer constructive insight like we're asking for you to do now. When the public's informed, they can advocate for conservation. Though people appreciate wildlife in many ways and generally agree that it enhances their quality of life, many don't understand the need for wildlife management or what the department does to fulfill its responsibility to manage over 800 species of wildlife in the state. In initial surveys prior to the launch of the department's Conserve and Protect campaign in 2015, only a quarter of individuals surveyed correctly identified the Arizona Game and Fish Department as managing and conserving Arizona's wildlife, and a not insignificant number of those didn't get our name quite right either. More troublesome, inaccurate or intentionally misleading information can have disastrous consequences under these circumstances. Wildlife management varies from state to state, and things like the number of tags issued or prohibitive methods of take, even something seemingly straightforward as how many agencies are responsible for wildlife, can vary. And turnover of residents in Arizona is staggering. The state's growing, but 2 people move out of the state for every 3 who come here. So that means that a message that's delivered last year is going to be new to 3 people this year who may have arrived with a very different concept of how wildlife is managed. In an environment like this, consistency is key. In a state like Arizona with high population turnover, and an increase of frequency is going to be a more effective effort. And consistent statewide messaging is necessary in making the department and its functions familiar to the public. Familiarity breeds trust, and trust builds advocacy. So to achieve this, a consistent, long-term funding source for education, outreach, and public awareness is necessary. So what are we looking for? The Commission's directed the department to consider any and all discretionary funding sources and options. So this means that whatever is identified, it has to be something that people are willing to pay for. We're not going to be funding this through fee increases or through any other sort of mandatory revenue stream. And based on our experience with the Conserve and Protect campaign, our research, and the expertise of external and internal public relations professionals, we've identified that a successful outreach campaign is going to cost between $1.5 and $2 million annually. And it's important that this funding be consistent and dedicated to marketing, because an outreach campaign isn't something that can be stopped and just picked up at a later time. An effort builds momentum, and that momentum itself is both a cost savings and a boost in effectiveness. And we can see this in a few concrete ways. One of the most is that there's less ramp-up time at the outset of each fiscal year. With a consistent marketing budget, plans can stretch over several years, and there's no need to build something up from scratch every single fiscal year. And this is what's going to be necessary to address a shifting population like the one that we have in Arizona. The ability to proactively plan for these campaigns is also going to allow us to capitalize and integrate on other statewide department efforts in our messaging and media and in our events, and cut down on an internal competition for audiences and just maximize the use and effectiveness of the money that we are using. And as part of that requirement, the Conserve and Protect campaign, as you can see here, utilized about $1 million in its first 2 years. And even with that, we were somewhat limited, but very effective in our outreach efforts. So that initial figure where only 25% of people were able to recognize the Arizona Game and Fish Department as the agency responsible for wildlife management in Arizona, that increased by 20% in fiscal year 2015 on that $1 million budget. We were able to reach audiences in both English and in Spanish. We were running year-round. And we saw a large increase the next year in the number of people who we were able to connect with that same budget. And as you can see, in 2017, the budget was reduced, and we weren't able to afford some really important tools like TV and radio advertising. We were no longer able to reach audiences statewide and had to pull out of key markets in Tucson and Flagstaff and Payson and limit our reach to English only and the timing to 6 months. And at this point, we did see a significant decline in that recognition number and the number of people who saw the Arizona Game and Fish Department as responsible for wildlife management in Arizona. So the availability of funding really is essential to us having more outreach and more ability to connect with people. Right now, our efforts are offline in Phoenix only, so we're not really present in markets like Flagstaff and Payson, except in a social and digital capacity. And we're not currently able to reach to the Spanish market, which is an expanding demographic that the department's looking to connect with. And we would really seek to be able to expand our message to talk about things that our biologists are doing in the field and document our bringing water to wildlife. So this webcast marks the beginning of our initial 30-day public input period. We'll be taking your input through ideas at azgfd.gov. And those ideas will be presented as a range of alternatives at our September Commission meeting. The Game and Fish Commission will select several alternatives, and those will be the basis of another webinar presentation on October 10th, which will be followed by another 30-day comment period from October 10th to November 9th, where we will take your input on those alternatives, and that will be presented to the Game and Fish Commission at its December meeting. So we are right now soliciting your public input in developing these alternatives. We're seeking your input through ideas at azgfd.gov, and this will be a highly transparent process similar to our previous license simplification effort. All these ideas will be posted on our dedicated website, which is listed here, Dedicated Funding Source. And your participation through the dedicated email address will be accepted for the next 30 days. We're very much looking forward to hearing your ideas and following up with a second comment opportunity between October 10th and November 9th. This concludes our webinar. I thank you for your participation. We're looking forward to hearing your ideas, and this presentation will be available on our website at any time for review.